my name is Gito Torre, and I'm the Director of Public Policy for Ducks Unlimited.
So I'm Mike Schreiberg. I'm the Great Lakes Regional Executive Director for the National Wildlife Federation, also the co-chair of the Healing Our Waters Great Lakes Coalition.
I started going to some of the meetings, and I kind of got drawn into the group and became, a member of the board and got more and more involved. But I just believed in what the organization was doing.
I've been with Ducks Unlimited for 22 years, and I've come to DU from a previous employment with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So primarily my interest in wetlands and wetland restoration and doing good things on the landscape to make our ecosystem better.
I've been here for about 4 or 5 years. I was a professor at the University of Michigan prior to that, and I came here out of a passion for water. I was a camp counselor the summer before I went to college, and I had kids playing in this stream. And to make a long story somewhat short, at the end of the summer, I learned that it was the most polluted waterway in Ohio. So I went into my college career going, why is that? I wanted to learn more. And that's led me on this pathway over the last 20 plus years to be an advocate for clean water in all of its forms. And, I've spent most of the last 20 years living here in Michigan and advocating for the Great Lakes.
I was living quite a ways away from the downriver area where the Friends of the Detroit River are mainly based, and I had heard about this place called Humbug Marsh, which contains the last natural shoreline on the U.S. side of the Detroit River. There's 400 acres that was purchased by a developer that wanted to develop it into homes and a marina and a golf course. There were the Friends of the Detroit River, which I was not a member of at the time, was the leading citizens group fighting the developers. I was living in Farmington at the time, and I just thought, I'm going to go down there and listen. They had a public hearing. I'll go down there and see what's going on there with that hearing and find out what it's about. And I was amazed that at this local high school, there were 800 people in the building that were pretty much almost all against developing Humbug Marsh. And the people in the area really knew that place, and it was special. I just thought, that's something that should be saved, and I would support that. A couple years later, I moved down to this area to be near the river. Opportunities came along where Great Lakes funding started to become available. Actually, as we were doing this kind of re-examination of our mission, the EPA mentioned to us that they thought that funding was going to be coming down to the Detroit River and the Great Lakes as a whole. Funding started to come in 2010, and we were in a good position to take advantage of that. We were one of the first groups to get grants in the first round. We got three grants in the first round, totaling about $3 million. So, and then our focus since then has been largely on the habitat restoration grants from the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative.
One of the key sources of funding is the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, and we have had great bipartisan support, both Republicans and Democrats, supporting funding for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. And the reason why is because there's lots of different parties out there, little different organizations like Ducks Unlimited or Audubon or the National Wildlife Federation. We're all advocating together to get this money from Congress, and Congress realizes, they look at what we're doing and saying, we're getting things done. And so there's money coming forth because the Great Lakes Restoration and partners get things done for the Great Lakes. Another thing we do is we take them out on tours. When they're back here in their home districts, we'll set up tours and go out and look at the projects, and so they can see them in various stages. Okay. We also have the business leaders that are working on these projects, the contractors, the pipe fitters, the pump makers, the dike makers, and show that we are hiring local help. Try to make sure that they understand that, hey, this isn't just doing something for clean water or for ducks. People are being impacted through jobs, through economy, through stimulus and leveraging of businesses and so forth. So
Since the Great Lakes restoration money has been available, it's allowed us to do a lot of projects. Over the last 9 years, we've done over $30 million in GLRI projects. The habitat restoration projects have demonstrably improved habitat, and we've seen some rather impressive results from those completed projects. Well, we've done a number of projects on Bell Island. In fact, we have Lake Okonoko's finishing up now, which connects to our earlier project, the Blue Heron Lagoon. That's going to have a big impact on fisheries as far as nursery habitat, fish that are spawned out in the spawning reefs out in the lake. We've done 2 projects here on the lower end of the river, Celeron Island and Stony Island, are owned by the DNR, that we've done protective shoals around those islands to prevent further erosion. I've been kayaking on the Detroit River the last 18 years. So I've been just about everywhere on the river, and you can see things in a different way in a kayak.
Yeah.
You're up close and personal with nature, with natural areas, and to see what's there. I know when I first started to paddle on the Detroit River, it was just one revelation after another, that, turtles and bullfrogs and, all the bird species that are out there. It was just amazing to me, the wildlife. To me, it's very satisfying to see what's happened in some of these areas where water quality has been improving somewhat from our projects, but also in general. Seeing the species returning, sturgeon returning, whitefish returning, bald eagles returning, osprey, beavers, all kinds of things that weren't here 20 years ago. It's really exciting to see.
Yeah, that must be really rewarding.
It is.
Well, Ducks Unlimited is really engaged in putting wetlands back on the landscape, and that's our mission. Our mission is to protect, restore, and enhance wetlands for the benefit of waterfowl and other wildlife, and of course people. So in the last 5 years, we have been really active in the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, and we have restored almost 25,000 acres of wetlands throughout the Great Lakes states, working with over 85 different partners. That's about 80 projects, and it's almost $40 million. So we love to have people to have great places to go out and hunt and fish and kayak and bird watch.
So one additional thing that we're doing here at the National Wildlife Federation and the POW Coalition is we're looking at these billions of dollars that have come into the region through the lens of equity and justice. Right? When this money comes in, what is it doing to disadvantaged communities? How is this helpful in the quest for social justice? This is a huge EPA program, which is based on ecological restoration. It's been analyzed from the perspective of, is it effective? And the answer has been yes. Does it spur economic development? The answer has been a resounding yes, maybe a 3-to-1 return on investment. But nobody's really looked at what it does on the perspective of diversity, equity, and justice. And so we're undertaking a comprehensive analysis to look at that. Because if we are spending these billions of dollars in the region, we want to make sure that all in the region, particularly those who are disproportionately impacted, actually have a voice in this, and that resources are made available and can be utilized effectively from that justice perspective. It'll be unique. We don't know of many other programs in the environmental realm, at least, that have been analyzed from that perspective. We hope to set guidelines and something model that can be followed, not only for this program, but in other programs in the region and throughout the country. So it's something I'm very excited about that we'll be working on in the next year with GLRI really as the model.
Well, there's still lots of areas that could be restored for wetlands. I mean, in the Great Lakes overall, we've lost about 50% of our original wetlands. A lot of those lands are currently under farming or ranching. They're in low-lying areas that could be purchased and restored if the landowners were willing, and if we had the money to do that. So we could be putting more wetlands back on the map and helping our water quality issues and helping our fish and wildlife populations. But probably the biggest, no problems about it. The biggest restriction is the availability of funding.
Been a very satisfying experience to work with all the people on our staff and on our board to accomplish what we have.
And the common interest that we get together on is restoring the lakes themselves. And so we formed this group, we formed this coalition, and this coalition is the driving force behind the nearly $4 billion that has gone into the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. Our key role is getting the nonprofit advocates together, getting the key stories of both what needs to be restored and what the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative has restored, and focusing that power on Congress and our political leaders to ensure that the restoration dollars keep coming to the region and that it stays an issue that's above the political fray. So it's an issue right now that we have as many Republican champions as we do Democratic champions. That's rare in Congress these days. We've managed to get through a presidential budget from Trump that tried to zero out this initiative or cut it by 90%. And NWF has been the primary mover in ensuring that those dollars keep coming to the region by simply bringing people together and telling the stories of both restoration and restoration